know I told you guys yesterday that we would get into the whole Carl Nassib coming out as gay thing, but I just don't care enough about that story. It's 2021. The whole coming out thing, aren't we past that? I mean, aren't we as a society past the point where we give a damn about someone's sexual orientation? I mean, who cares? The media is hyping this up because it's so historical. The first openly gay player in the NFL. Who cares? Didn't we go through this same thing just a few years ago? What the hell was that dude's name? ESPN was making such a big deal about him. Michael Sam or whoever the hell it was. I thought he was the first openly gay player in the NFL. I guess the Wokers, I guess they don't count him since he never played a snap in the league. I had never seen so much hype around a late round draft pick before like I did with ESPN hyping up Michael Sam. And honestly, if he wasn't a darling of the woke media, I doubt he even gets drafted. But speaking of ESPN, let's go ahead and get into Stephen A. Smith. I'm going to have to put Stephen A. Smith in the same class as Jamel Hill and LeBron James. The gift that keeps on giving. Stephen A. Smith has become a woke crusader. Everything in his world has to do with race. It revolves around race. Pelicans, they replace Alvin Gentry with Stan Van Gundy. It's because Stan Van Gundy is white. He used his white privilege. If Stephen A. walks into an ice cream shop and they happen to be out of chocolate ice cream, but they have plenty of vanilla, it's because vanilla ice cream used its white privilege. Stephen A. loves to talk about this mythical white privilege. All the while, he is one of the most privileged people in the country. Stephen A. makes $8 million a year to be a literal parrot for his woke bosses at ESPN. The executives at ESPN tell him what to say, and Stephen A. Smith repeats it with perfection. Do you want a real example of white privilege? It's sitting across the desk from Stephen A. Smith every morning on Woke Take, Max Kellerman. Max Kellerman is a beacon of white privilege. Another dude who makes a ton of money to know absolutely nothing about sports. Outside of boxing, Max Kellerman is clueless when it comes to sports. Now, after the Nets were eliminated from the playoffs over the weekend, Stephen A. went on ESPN. And somehow, he turned this into a conversation about Steve Nash and race. Now, me personally, I thought Steve Nash did a great job with the Nets this season. First year head coach, you're walking into a situation where you're coaching three of the best players in the NBA. Steve Nash was able to manage all of those egos. And if two of his best players don't get injured, the Nets likely won the title this year. So Stephen A. goes on Woke Take. And for a change, he doesn't blame the hiring of Steve Nash on white privilege. I guess he feels like he's beaten the white privilege horse to death. This time, he blames the hiring of Steve Nash on Kevin Durant. Here's what Stephen A. had to say, quote, "It's not just that Sean Marks picked the coach. It's that you picked him." And he's talking about Kevin Durant picking him. Sean Marks picks the coach you want. It don't matter what he came to you and suggested. If you said no, Steve Nash wouldn't be the coach, end quote. Now, when I heard this, I'm thinking to myself, wait just a damn minute here. For almost a year, Stephen A. has been telling anyone who would listen that the only reason that Steve Nash was hired in Brooklyn was because of his white privilege. I mean, it's obvious, right? Sean Marks is white. Steve Nash is white. Sean Marks thinks that the only qualification to be the Nets head coach is sharing his skin tone. So he hires someone who looks like him, Steve Nash. That has been Stephen A.'s premise for an entire year. But now, he's singing a different tune. Steve Nash didn't get hired in Brooklyn because of white privilege. He was hired because Kevin Durant wanted him. That's not what I would call white privilege. That's Sean Marks doing what smart general managers do. Hiring a coach that your superstar players like and will get along with. That's smart. Oh, but it gets even better with Stephen A. He continued, quote, KD pretty much followed and adopted the mentality of Kyrie Irving. It's not that important. We got a crew. We're going to be all right no matter what. But the point is this, not a scintilla of experience as a head coach on any level. I think for a champion like Kyrie Irving and for a champion like KD, who know the game and know how important coaching is, to have that kind of mentality is inexcusable, end quote. Stephen A., the gift that keeps on giving. Here we go again with the same tired point. Steve Nash didn't have any coaching experience. He shouldn't have been given this job in Brooklyn. Now you want to blame Kevin Durant? First it was white privilege. Now it's Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving's fault. Here's the thing. I didn't hear Stephen A. Smith screaming about black privilege when Ty Lue was given the job in Cleveland back in 2016. I didn't hear him call out LeBron James for pushing for Ty Lue to get the Cavs job. Guess how many years of coaching experience Ty Lue had back in 2016? 0. I guess Stephen A. forgot about that. Oops, I forgot. But like the typical woker, why let facts get in the way of promoting your woke agenda? This is typical Stephen A. Smith. Or what about Jason Kidd? At least Steve Nash had some level of coaching experience before taking over in Brooklyn. Jason Kidd literally retired from the NBA as a player and walked right into the Nets head coaching job back in 2013. Jason Kidd literally had 0 coaching experience on any level. Not AAU, not high school, college, none. Yet, he was given an NBA head coaching job. Was that black privilege? Maybe Stephen A. will argue that, well, Jason Kidd, he's light-skinned. So that's white privilege too. That's light-skinned privilege. Mark Jackson. He was out of the NBA for 7 years when the Warriors hired him. Again, just like Jason Kidd, Mark Jackson, no coaching experience. When Steve Kerr took his place, I didn't hear Stephen A. talking about white privilege then. Not a word out of Stephen A. Smith when Steve Kerr was hired by the Warriors back in 2014. Now, why do you think that is? Steve Kerr was similar to Steve Nash. Kerr worked under Greg Popovich in San Antonio before taking over in Golden State, but he had no head coaching experience. How come Stephen A. Smith wasn't outraged at the white privilege with Steve Kerr? Because back in 2014, the narrative was different. Back then, Stephen A. talked about actual sports. He wasn't tasked with turning everything in sports into a racial issue. Now, what's happened between 2014 and 2021? The narrative at ESPN has changed. I don't know this for a fact, but I am inclined to believe Jason Whitlock when he says this. He has no reason to lie. Jason Whitlock claims, just like I said earlier, that executives at ESPN instruct Stephen A. on what he says. Whitlock even went as far as to say that when Stephen A. was a journalist, an editor was tasked with basically writing his articles, writing his material. Now, this is a pattern at ESPN. Dan Le Batard left because he claimed ESPN was muting him. He was too woke for ESPN, if you can believe that. With Stephen A. Smith, though, ESPN has the perfect yes man. He does exactly what they want him to do, says exactly what they want him to say. He doesn't go too far off the woke train either. He goes just far enough to keep it within acceptable limits. The bottom line is, Stephen A. Smith is a fraud. This dude sold his integrity for money. I can actually remember a time, not too long ago, just a few years ago, certain people in the black community were calling Stephen A. an Uncle Tom. He was accused of always siding with white coaching hires, always siding with white people on issues. Now, he's the polar opposite. I'm supposed to believe that all of a sudden, Stephen A.'s mentality has just completely changed. He's flipped. Or could it be ESPN gave him a fat contract to promote their woke agenda. I'll let you guys decide on that. Let me know what you think. Does Stephen A. Smith really believe what he says? Or is he a paid woke mouthpiece at ESPN? Also, let me know what you think about his comments on Steve Nash. Make sure to like and subscribe. Click the notification bell to receive all notifications from the channel. Best way to contact me is by email at btlkc84@gmail.com, KC_BTL84 on Twitter. I'll see you guys later.